Well, hello everyone. My name is Scott McCrae, Shaklee Ambassador. Been in the Shaklee field for a little over, touch over 20 years now, and I have the rare opportunity to interview Rick and Aldona Seymour, Master Coordinators. Been in the business for a while, longer than I have. We're going to talk a little bit about that. Hi guys, thanks for hopping on and doing this little interview. I think this is a great opportunity to kind of hear it from your perspective and
Well,
your
our pleasure for sure.
you bet. I'd love to start back at the beginning. So if you can kind of put us into the mindset of where you were. Well, let's see, you've been in the business how long with Shaklee?
51 years.
Okay, wow. So 51 years ago. That's probably a while to remember back to, but could you both give me a little bit of a take on where you were at in your life 51 years ago? And then talk I'll ask a few questions based on what you talk about there.
You keep saying you're a rocket scientist. He was an aerospace engineer and working full time. I was working for the American Cancer Society, trucking down dirt road, County Line Road,
Hmm.
the opposite side of town from South Turkey Creek Canyon. And we were kind of strapped for money, and Rick really did not like the 9 to 5. He loved working with the astronauts, and he thought that part was really good. But between Martin management and then government management with NASA, he was a little burned out and looking for an opportunity.
But certainly wasn't looking for something like Shaklee. I had looked at all kinds of things, owning a bike shop, going into woodworking, all kinds of things. They all had their downside
Oh yeah, that
that I
little
thought was going to
little
be more
store
of a
down the
problem.
road that you
Yeah,
wanted me in
the
24/7.
little log store in Tiny Town, that was a really bad idea. But Shaklee just came along on a fluke.
Yeah,
So
so make it
um,
make it
we
real. Make it
we
real.
actually went to a lunch for a fellow engineer that was leaving, moving to another state, and I had only been in Colorado for 6 months. And the gentleman asked me how I liked Colorado, and I said, well, I'm a little disappointed because the creek across the road from us looks polluted. And he jumped right on it. And what do you use to clean your house? And, and just kind of backed up a little bit. But when I started asking him how I can get those biodegradable cleaning products, which I got very excited about, we invited them up to our house. And that's how we got introduced to Shaklee. They talked about the cleaners. They talked about the nutrition. I got very excited about the supplements. I'd worked for the American Cancer, not the well, before Cancer Society, I worked for University of Chicago hospitals and clinics. And, we were seeing a lot of people that were there because of lifestyle choices, not necessarily because of genetics.
Well, and
So,
Aldona was excited about the nutrition, but I didn't know anything about nutrition, didn't care, didn't believe most of what he said about it. So I kind of blew that part of the presentation off. And then he started drawing circles and lines and talking about the business model and how it could expand and how it could grow. And I immediately saw the potential. So before we'd ever seen or touched a product, I decided right then and there, this could be my ticket out of corporate America.
freaked me out.
So I've heard some stories, of course, over the years about this house that you had to invite this guy over to. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, we lived in what was literally a 600 square foot shack. We had a card table and chairs in the kitchen we borrowed from my parents, a mattress on the floor in the bedroom. And in the living room, there was one kind of eaten up by the cat chair that we put the lady, if it was a couple, in, and the husband and Aldona and I would sit on the ratty carpet. And we proceed to tell them how excited we were about Shaklee. And amazingly enough, there are actually some people that believed us.
Some of those are still around with us.
And still around with us. But we were in a really tough spot financially. We both had good jobs, but most of Aldona's family was still behind the Iron Curtain when it was still part of communist Russia. And we took 3 trips back to see her family when it was still behind the Iron Curtain. And we took out every charge card anybody would give us. We'd go over there and we'd buy winter jackets and shoes and tires for the only car in the whole family that hadn't been replaced in God knows how long. And so we were
Well, that
basically
car
in,
is a miracle.
we were in debt up to here because we so much wanted to help out her family that had so much less than we did in this country.
Wow. Yeah, that's pretty powerful. Aldona, at this point, could you touch a little bit about your history there? Because I think you have a unique perspective with what America is known as the land of opportunity and where you came from. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Well, we escaped from communism, from behind the Iron Curtain. And we had a whole series of miracles that happened. We ended up in West Berlin instead of East Berlin. And so we were in what was then called DP camp. I guess now you'd call it a refugee camp. And
this was after World War II.
This is after World War II. And so anyway, with series of miracles, again, we ended up in the United States. Quite a few countries accepted a certain amount of refugees, and everybody, of course, was vetted, but we came over. It was a close call for us because my father was older and they weren't sure how long he would be able to work to have a job here. So as it turns out, he worked until he was 80 something and did pretty well. So anyway, so we ended up in the United States and just outside, came through Ellis Island, went by train to a dairy farm outside of Rochester, New York.
Talk about the Army troop ship.
So in order to get here, people were put on Army troop ships, which was really fascinating. They had 3 bunks. But it was just a really amazing experience with all the different nationalities that were on the ship. And then we were getting close to Ellis Island, and the captain notified the ship that we were coming close to Ellis Island and we were coming close to the Statue of Liberty. So as many of us as could fit, and of course my parents took me up there, and as we saw that, I still get goosebumps, as we saw the Statue of Liberty, my parents said that in this country, status didn't matter. What mattered was if you work hard, you're honest, you can achieve whatever you decide you want to achieve and become the person you want to be. And I will always remember that. Both my mom and my mother and father said that, because in Europe culture, status didn't matter what culture you were born in and whether you were a baron or a peasant or whatever. So, that really, this country really is a land of opportunity. And Shaklee is the most incredible opportunity because you don't have to invest thousands of dollars to get into it. You can just take care of your health and start a business.
Well, I mean, an amazing segue there. So Shaklee comes into your lives, you see this opportunity. Now, I will say Shaklee is not easy. It's simple, but it does take hard work. Can you tell us about your early days in the company, what that looked like, any frustrations you ran into, points in your life where if there was a major decision point that was made or something that changed the course of your future?
Well, I think the biggest challenge for me is I was a stereotypical engineer with 0 people skills. I did everything I could to avoid people. I wouldn't eat lunch in the company cafeteria because I was afraid somebody would talk to me. And when Aldona pointed out to me that all those circles and lines that I was drawing and getting so excited about were actual people, that I was going to have to talk to somebody, I almost had a coronary right on the spot. And I think that's the first time I ever came to the realization that if I didn't change, my life was never going to change. So I think that was sort of the first eye opener for me in terms of what am I going to have to do if I want to be successful outside of corporate America?
In the meantime, I was sponsoring because I was so excited about the products and they were making a difference in my life.
Was there a point at which you could see your way out of Martin Marietta right away, or was it a long period saying, boy, is this really going to happen for me? Can you tell me a little bit about that?
I think,
I left my job pretty easy.
yeah, Aldona left her job 6 months after we started. We equaled her income 6 months into Shaklee, and she was making probably twice what the average woman in Denver was making at that point in time. This was, remember, 51 years ago.
That was because I was in human resources and I saw what the income was of the man that had my job before me.
So they couldn't get away with what so many corporations had gotten away with for so many years. But we worked hard. I mean, we made a lot of sacrifices in the beginning. We gave up time with our kids, and we told them we'll trade time now for time later. And if they were willing to help us make the kind of sacrifices required and the time investment required, that we'd give them a weekend that we would do whatever they wanted to do. And ultimately, they ended up traveling all over the world with us. And I think today would tell you it was worth every bit of that effort. But I think.
And our daughter has built her own Shaklee business.
Yeah, absolutely. Because she saw the potential years and years ago too. And I think the reality, especially for me, was when we equaled my aerospace engineering income in 13 months, all of a sudden it registered on me. Yeah, I think this thing is really going to work. And it took work. There's no doubt about it. There's no free lunch in Shaklee or anyplace else. But the fascinating thing is, I think the payoff for the effort in this business is dramatically higher than it is almost any other business that I've ever looked at.
Incredible. And I would say that's not typical. That would probably be someone who was like you and really focused and committed on a consistent basis to really put this thing into motion.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. We were not typical. I don't think the average person does that. Today, I think with the technology we have and the resources we have, that we never had anything remotely like it 50 years ago, that somebody coming into the business today could probably duplicate what we did in less time than we did it. But that's not to say it's still not going to take an awful lot of hard work.
I mean, we spent a lot of evenings doing in-home meetings for people and working with people and following up and meeting people one-on-one. We built most of our business one-on-one.
We gave up a lot of Saturdays to do.
But I think when we promoted
meeting
out our first directors, for me, that was the most exciting part.
Oh, absolutely.
That's what proved to me it really, really works, and it really makes a difference in other people's lives.
So this is kind of fascinating to me to hear your perspective back when I was early in Shaklee. About 2004, this guy comes in and swoops out of nowhere by the name of Roger Barnett. Could you talk a little bit about this guy and why he's so important and what he's done with Shaklee since 2004?
We have an amazing visionary at the helm. Roger, at the time, was a 38-year-old billionaire, and he sold his online company. It was the first online beauty company out there a couple of decades ago, very successful. And he was looking for the next big thing. What did he want to invest his money in? What kind of business did he want to get into? And he spent basically 3 years, and I think the last tally was about $25 million, looking at industries and figuring out what industry probably makes the most sense. And after looking at dozens and dozens, he settled on the community marketing model that we have today in terms of its possibility for expansion. And then he did what very few people would ever think of doing. he didn't go to the CEOs and the owners of all these different network marketing companies trying to figure out which one was probably the best option for him. He literally joined as a member and went to their meetings to learn, what is their culture like? What do people think about the company? How do they feel about the products they're selling? Are they really being honest with what they're sharing? Are they living by a philosophy and doing business by a philosophy that really agrees with who I am? And after he spent 3 years doing that and 75 different network marketing companies, he settled on Shaklee and decided this was the crown jewel of the industry. And he wanted to buy it. At the time, it was owned by Yamanouchi Pharmaceutical. He flew to Japan and said, I want to buy your company. And they said, we don't want to sell it. He took 3 trips over there. He speaks fluent Japanese, along with, I think, 5 other languages, 6 other languages. He finally convinced them they wanted to sell it. He personally wrote the check to buy this company. And at 38 years old, he became the owner of Shaklee Corporation. And I just happened to be a part of what's called the Masters Executive Committee. Every year, the people at the upper levels in the company elect 6 people to represent the field to the corporation to help in decision making and talking about where we want the company to go and all that kind of stuff. And I just happened to be on that committee when Roger bought the company. He flew the 6 of us to San Francisco to meet with him so he could learn more about the culture of Shaklee, share his vision of Shaklee. And it was almost 3 full days of very intense meetings. In fact, we did about 12 hours a day. And on the 3rd day, it was the middle of the afternoon. And Roger, without any fanfare or any comment, got up from the boardroom table. He walked around to the counter. He picked up a tray of fruit and cookies, and he served the 6 of us and sat back down. And I'm thinking to myself, when is the last time a billionaire owner of a company ever served the little people? And I thought right then, this man has a servant's heart and I will follow him anywhere. And for the last 20 years, he has proven that to be an extraordinary decision, because both what he has created in Shaklee in the last 20 years, as well as his vision for the future, is just so far surpasses, I think, anybody else that could have done it.
Absolutely. Could you touch a little bit about some of the, just really briefly, some of the major innovations that we've seen since Roger's been on that you feel have been game changers in the marketplace, that nobody else has what Shaklee has from that perspective?
Vivix.
That's a
Right,
big
yeah.
Amen.
Go ahead.
No, you tell him about what he's done with
Well,
what he bought.
Vivix is an extraordinary product. It's really an anti-aging product. That was where the research was focused at the time that they started to develop it. And they have discovered that it literally repairs DNA at the cellular level. And it literally slows the aging process at the cellular level. But what Roger did is that he discovered a particular ingredient that goes into this that is absolutely crucial to create a product like this. And he just went to the producers and bought the next 20 years worth of their output, so that, number one, we have enough Vivix to sell, and number 2, nobody else could possibly create a product anything like
7 patents. I don't know the exact number.
I don't know, it's got a lot of patents on
numbers.
it.
It has a lot of patents.
Lots of patents. Even before that, Nutrifuron, which is an amazing product to support our immune systems. Dr. Kojima years ago discovered interferon. I think a lot of people are familiar with. It's used in cancer and all kinds of stuff. It helps support your immune system. But the challenge is the drug they created has too many side effects. And so Dr. Kojima spent the next 30 years looking for a natural way to stimulate interferon production in the body. He found out what made it work. Shaklee bought the rights to that formula. And again, there's literally nothing like it on the market. It's an extraordinary product. And of course, the latest and greatest,
I'm so excited.
is sparkling
And I love
protein. I mean, think of a sparkling lemon lime drink with 40 grams of protein that has no residue, nothing settles out of it. It's delicious. You will be astounded by this product when you try it. But
And
anyway,
once
You
again,
bet.
we're the only people that have it.
that's right. There's literally nothing else like it on the market.
I think it positions Shaklee for some amazing growth potential here in the next few years. So I'm excited to see where that goes. All right. So let's wrap up with just a couple more thoughts. I've heard master coordinators abroad all over Shaklee really saying Shaklee is a lifestyle business. Can you talk a little bit about what that means to have a lifestyle business?
I think the first piece, and that was the most important piece when we first got in, I felt that this was a company and a business with a conscience, that I could be sharing about the products and about the business, knowing I can sleep at night, and that my family can use all of it. And I can really share a lot about my family and my latest great granddaughter, my granddaughter, my granddaughters, my great granddaughter, they all had Shaklee before they were born. So it's just to be able to share with people the possibilities of the health. And obviously, the fact that we have biodegradable cleaners, we have clean skincare. It's the first time now it's coming up in the news about what's happening with the skincare in the marketplace and how dangerous it is. And we've never had to worry about that with Shaklee. And basically just the nutrition. So the products in themselves allow for it, but the community that we have, it's a big piece of what, at our age, people ask us, are you still doing that Shaklee thing? And I'm going, you know what? It gives us purpose in life. It gives us a community. We're always around people that have the same goals, the same high values, the same integrity, so that we can enjoy our life and, I mean, definitely live younger, longer.
Well, and I think for us, it became very clear very quickly. It wasn't a job. It wasn't even a career. It literally was a lifestyle because we incorporate all the Shaklee products as part of our lifestyle. The business is part of the community that we have grown, as well as what we participate in. And that's pretty amazing to think that here we are 51 years later. We're just as excited, if not more excited, than we were when we started this thing. And I don't know anybody in any other career or business that after 51 years is still excited about it.
You bet. Can you imagine what your life would be like had Shaklee not come into it?
Oh, I don't even want to think about it. I mean, we've had opportunities to travel all over the world. We've been in 60 countries thanks to Shaklee. We've had, the freedom of being, for all intents and purposes, semi-retired for the last 41 years now. A lifestyle that most people hope they can have when they retire, but we've had it for 40 years.
And we have customers from 50 years ago that I know their stories and they've shared this with their children. And so we've got another generation using products. And I don't know of any other company that has that kind of history.
Super. Well, we've already almost burned up a half an hour, but I will ask, is there anything else that you feel that if somebody were looking at Shaklee for the first time and evaluating, is this for real? Does it work? Can I do it? Would you have any other insights that you would want to add?
For many years, up until last year, at every annual conference, we had what was called the $1 Million Parade. And it would just be people who had earned $1 million in Shaklee, whether it was in 5 years or 20 years or 50 years. But anybody who had earned $1 million just walked across the stage. Nobody stopped, nobody talked, just walked across the stage. And the last time we did it, it was 22 minutes. And that many people to walk across, walking fast, people who had earned $1 million in Shaklee. And now, in the last couple of years, it got to be so many people, it takes too much time out of conference, so we just quit doing it. So yeah, I think it's very real. And there's thousands of people who have done it.
And from every way of life, people from, remember the janitors that were on stage getting awards, to doctors, to, it didn't, just like I said in the beginning, it doesn't matter what the status is, what your education is, and what, it just matters that you care about people and community.
Excellent.
Well said.
Thank you both for taking some time out to do this. I think there's people out there who need to hear your message. So thank you. That's all I can
Well,
say.
thank you, Scott.
Thank you
Appreciate
very
the
much,
opportunity
Scott.
to share.
Thank
You
you
bet.
for, thank
All
you for
right.
taking the time.
You betcha. All right. Have a good night. We'll see you soon.